We have decided to fight back. They picked the wrong person to fight with. And I don't know about you, Alex, but as a kid, when someone told me what to do, I never appreciated it. But we have decided to stream what we're calling Rose Icke 3, the end of the trilogy, on May 3rd, 2020. And we're going to have 1 million people watching that live stream simultaneously. It'll make us the largest live stream of a conversation in human history. But to do that, I can't wait and kowtow to these Silicon Valley companies. So we've had to create our own platform, Alex. And we've had to create our own war chest. And that's what's been super exciting about the last 48 hours.
Exactly. And that's what's so beautiful is we made YouTube powerful. We made Google powerful. We made Facebook powerful. And you're the talent. You're the host. You've got the guests. You built the studio. You've got the crew. You did it all. Since when do these people sit in judgment over you like they're God? And so you've done it just like InfoWars did. You've built your own platform and you're building it and they are coming.
What are you going to tell your grandchildren you did, you know, in the great reduction of human rights of 2020? You know, did you sit at home and do as you were told? Or did you fight back? Did you question authority? Did you share these messages? Did you also start saying, why are we doing this? Maybe this is wrong. I think we're going to look back on this year, Alex, and we're all going to be judged. And leadership comes in many forms. It can come in many ages and many guises. And it's time for us all to step up and do the right thing. We all know what that is. And it's just the fear that gets in the way. It's been magnified by these governments. It's frightening here. Most people in this country are terrified to leave their house, even though it makes no scientific
We'll
sense.
talk about it when we come back, but exactly. People are so depressed that submit, but when you rebel against the basic programming of the universe, when you rebel against them trying to suppress the basic programming, it's empowering. It feels good.
Something's building up here where you're going to see a major decision that he makes. Either that or the public are going to get to a point, and you've seen the protests in Austin everywhere around the world, where people just won't have it because they're going to be marginalized. This is going to have a generational effect on the class system, on people's wealth, on their livelihoods. And at some point, they're going to snap. And I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it. People are asking me. Strangely enough, people are joining my courses at record levels so they can learn how to take advantage of this information economy that we're in now, as opposed to this old industrial economy. So people are looking for ways out, Alex. They're clamoring for them. And I'm asking them, you know, how are you going to be remembered in 2020 as someone who is fighting in the front lines? You know, and sure, you're going to get damaged. You might bleed. You might die. Or do you want to be known as someone that lets someone else fight for their freedom? That's the question you need to ask yourself. We need to get back to work. We need to find a way. That's my message.
All right, Brian Rose is here. I've been a fan of his work 3-4 years. I've watched a lot of it when I'm on the treadmill or, you know, out hiking or whatever. I tend to listen to it. He's at LondonReal.tv, but he just is a very real guy, like London Real. So I've always liked him, just had an immediate affinity with him. And early on, he's done a lot of David Icke interviews. I really enjoyed those. But I liked all the interviews he did because, unlike me, he shuts up and lets folks talk. And then when he does pipe in, he really has insightful comments. But what he really has is something that is the fifth element. And it's courage. And it's being a leader and realizing that you can go along and get along and be empowered monetarily early on in a corrupt system. But in the end, you destroy yourself and everybody else. What really matters is integrity. So I'm going to try to shut up for the next hour or so while he's with us. Brian Rose of LondonReal.com. I've got a lot of questions for him about COVID-19 and the New World Order and his show and his big David Icke interview that they had in literally thousands of publications saying, this is the most evil thing on earth, but we've banned it. You can't see what they actually said. And it was just because David Icke was like electrical. I mean, I've always been a David Icke fan, but I was like cult follower at that point. So Brian Rose, great to have you here. You've got another big David Icke interview. You've been warned not to have him back on, but you've doubled down the essence of male leadership. I'll just say it. I'm not gay, but it's sexy, okay? Men not backing down, women not backing down. There's nothing more sexy than knowing you're right and having the will. So thanks for joining us. Tell us about where you're at right now and what you've been through the last few weeks on this roller coaster, because you were a successful banker and had a show for 10 years and reached millions every week, but now you've taken a rocket ship up to the next level.
Well, it's great to be back, Alex, and I love that song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I feel like that's been playing in the back of my head the last couple weeks with a few of the trillion-dollar Silicon Valley BMOS because they've been trying to tempt me with the cash flow that usually gets most people to shut up. But they picked the wrong guy to fight with because I'm deciding not to play their game. And like you said, for the last 9 years, we've been a platform for free speech, having these long form, nuanced conversations. And I emphasize nuance because you have to really listen to someone to understand that point of view. This isn't just a clickbait headline. And 2 weeks ago, in what was the second largest YouTube stream in the world, a show that was going to go on to be watched probably 30 or 40 million times, potentially the most watched video podcast in human history, was subsequently banned from YouTube 30 minutes later. I wasn't consulted. It wasn't discussed with me. I found out the details in a BBC article the next day. And from there, as you know, Alex, the next 2 weeks, I've been banned on LinkedIn, on Vimeo, on Dropbox, on Facebook, on Twitter. But we have decided to fight back. They picked the wrong person to fight with. And I don't know about you, Alex, but as a kid, when someone told me what to do, I never appreciated it. But we have decided to stream what we're calling Rose Icke 3, the end of the trilogy, on May 3rd, 2020. And we're going to have 1 million people watching that live stream simultaneously. It'll make us the largest live stream of a conversation in human history. But to do that, I can't wait and kowtow to these Silicon Valley companies. So we've had to create our own platform, Alex. And we've had to create our own war chest. And that's what's been super exciting about the last 48 hours.
Exactly. And that's what's so beautiful is we made YouTube powerful. We made Google powerful. We made Facebook powerful. And you're the talent. You're the host. You've got the guests. You built the studio. You've got the crew. You did it all. Since when do these people sit in judgment over you like they're God? And so you've done it just like InfoWars did. You've built your own platform and you're building it and they are coming.
Very much so. And, I think they've been shocked by the way I've behaved. I think they expected us to, behave like a good little boy, to go away and be silent and never mention Ike, COVID-19, 5G, you name it. But we have continued to put everything we possibly can on that platform. I continue to publish and post this Rose Icke 3 coming up on May 3rd. And we are really pushing the envelope here and building our own digital platform with the capital.
By the way, I want you to get 5 billion views, unlike these stupid Gangnam Style videos. I mean, seriously, I want to see people I think we're in competition. We don't, but other people do. We're not in competition. We're in competition against the forces of globalism that want to suppress free speech. Every victory for people that stand up for free speech is our shared victory. Your victories are my victory. My victories are your victories, Brian.
Correct. I want all of us to be seen, to be known. And the better you do, the better I do, the better David Icke does. I mean, we just want free speech. We want adults to make their own decisions, Alex. And, we're losing the sovereignty of our own bodies, what to put inside them, what to put inside our ears and our eyes. And, Ofcom came out with a statement the other day. And by the way, the television station that aired my first interview with David Icke had to publish a retraction. And Ofcom said this is dangerous material to broadcast, implying that we need to be coddled as adults and we can't make our own decisions. This boggles my mind, and we're fighting back against this.
Oh, the head of YouTube came out with Brian Stelter on unreliable sources and said, we're banning anyone that doesn't follow WHO orders. So suddenly we wake up and the UN, unelected bureaucrats funded by China, are now in control of what we can say. And she said, you will not promote zinc. Zinc is non-essential.
I mean, this is another example of the Silicon Valley companies having a completely different line than the government of the countries they're located in. And now, the U.S. is pulling funding from the WHO. A lot of people questioning their leadership. And now
I was about to say, isn't it exciting to finally see pushback, Brian?
Oh, yeah. And, Ike has been talking about this for a long time, questioning that authority. But, Alex, with a name like the World Health Organization, 99% of the public just assumes it automatically has authority. But when you start looking at their decisions, it's shocking. And I've been very impressed to see Trump's pushback on that. And of course, he's gotten a lot of flack from it as well.
Well, that's right. But again, 99% of folks roll over where you haven't rolled over. And again, as you said, we won't get into details, but they come. I didn't talk to you about this, but I know how it works. We got a big deal for you. Hey, we got a big sponsor. Just do what we say. And then you didn't do what they said, Brian.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people reach out for sponsorship. We've never had sponsors, and I don't want them at this point because I don't even want to hesitate for a second to think about what I'm going to publish. And so that way we've continued to do whatever the heck we want around here. And
well, you just said it though, because hesitation holds back the purity. There's something, people think like, no, we want unfiltered. What is it about unfiltered that's so magic?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And all these people that are still on these platforms, they know in the back of their mind, maybe there's something they can't say. And so maybe they just better toe the line a little bit, not mention that COVID-19 thing, because they'll lose their cash flow, maybe lose their entire business. But I am not scared. I'm willing to put it all on the line. And let me be clear, if we get banned from YouTube, this company's revenues drop down to zero. But I don't care. Whatever's on the other side, I think we can deal with it. Honestly, Alex, you've been a trailblazer in that way, and I'm trusting the process. And I'm trusting what we're calling the London Real Army, which is millions of people that have mobilized around the world. Alex, I saw posters in Austin, Texas at the courthouse with London Real Army on them. Blew me away.
Oh, that's it. Because you're the man in the arena and you didn't back down. It becomes a standard for others. And we don't want to be banned. We won't want to be persecuted. But if you make us do that, we will build our own system. And it's that spirit that if the people resonated with that, it would take all the power from big tech overnight. Because the people, it is called YouTube, right? Still?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Alex. And I see people in the streets constantly shouting at me. I've got guys in garbage trucks, guys in delivery trucks that are yelling out, Brian, Lowe's want to keep doing what you're doing, fight the power. There's a lot of people out there that want to do this pushback. And maybe now is the time where we can finally show them that we have a voice. We ended up getting back on LinkedIn after thousands of my followers deleted their accounts. And I don't know what got their attention, but they're starting to notice. And I think with this new platform that I'll talk about shortly and this Icke 3, I think we're making a statement.
Well, get into that right now. We're about to start the next hour, but you got this big David Icke interview coming up in just like a week or so.
Yeah, so to stream concurrently with 1 million people, not on a major platform of one of the trillion-dollar Silicon Valley corporations, requires a lot of money. My technical guys ran the analysis, said it's $100,000 for that 1 2-hour stream.
That's right.
So, Alex, I've never asked for $1 in the history of London Real. 9 years, never asked for a donation. We started a crowdfunding platform yesterday, and in just over 24 hours, we've raised $250,000 for the Digital Freedom Platform, which is—
And that's real voting with money, because let me explain. For folks that don't know, he puts it out in HD. He's got a good streamer for what he said, $100,000. You want to get 10, 15, 20 million views like we get every few days now? Folks, it is huge amounts of money. That's where all your purchases are going. I can tell you what he's saying, and they made him do this. But that's what's beautiful. They're making us innovate. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. That's why you need to go to London Real right now and donate. It's so beautiful. That's why they put me in prison soon because, I can't talk about it yet, but they've told me if I don't back down and I don't support Trump, they're going to put me in prison, and that's okay. I'm ready for it. I think Brian Rose will be there while I'm in prison supporting me and my family. We'll be right back with the next hour. Stay with us. Well, Brian Rose of LondonReal.tv is the example that if other men and women acted like him, we wouldn't be in this situation. But that's okay. That's what leaders are about. And it's not about kissing his ass, but he's been around 9, 10 years. He's been successful, and he's been censored. He hasn't backed down. And so his example of saying, we're going to have the biggest live stream ever. We're going to have the biggest event ever. We're going to quadruple down. That is the spirit of victory. And that's what they fear so much, is someone that knows that when other doors close, this happened to me when I wouldn't censor myself. I had the #1 show in Austin. It was already syndicated. And it was like Jay Leno was talking about me. And I was like 27 years old. I've been on there like 4 years. And I didn't sell out, and they fired me. And like, I knew it was okay as I drove home. And like, all these doors just flew open. We have to know that's how the universe works. So this is a short segment. Long segment coming up. Brian Rose of London Real, an American there in London with his hit TV radio show, these big David Icke interviews and others. You don't want to talk about yourself, but let's talk about the energy and the decision. Next segment, when some stations join us, we'll get into the big event you're having, because I want it to be the biggest ever, because this is our event. It's all our events. What was the thought process as they start to shut you down and censor you and try to punish you, where you decided to just take the leap?
Yeah, well, Alex, it was just a knee-jerk reaction. I think it was in my DNA growing up in San Diego, California. This concept of freedom of speech is just something I thought was normal. So my first reaction, we were banned on YouTube, was to upload another version and upload a vlog complaining about it with a link to the banned episode. So for me, this is a natural reaction. I never had to question it. There's been a few times where I looked at potentially the demise of my business, but I'm trusting the process and the energy of the people in the London Real Army.
Well, that is the purest answer ever. It's who you are. You're not bowing. You're not dying. It's not even a decision. It's who you are. It's a spirit.
Yeah, it is. My first reaction was, no, you cannot do this. This is not fair. This is not right. And as I further analyze
if everybody had that attitude, we'd already be 20 galaxies out.
Yeah.
If good people just didn't back down to the intimidation and just said, I don't care what happens. You want to fight, you got one.
And this is what we talked about at the end of the last conversation with Ike. Like, what are you going to tell your grandchildren you did, you know, in the great reduction of human rights of 2020? You know, did you sit at home and do as you were told? Or did you fight back? Did you question authority? Did you share these messages? Did you also start saying, why are we doing this? Maybe this is wrong. I think we're going to look back on this year, Alex, and we're all going to be judged. And leadership comes in many forms. It can come in many ages and many guises. And it's time for us all to step up and do the right thing. We all know what that is. And it's just the fear that gets in the way. It's been magnified by these governments. It's frightening here. Most people in this country are terrified to leave their house, even though it makes no scientific sense.
We'll talk about it when we come back, but exactly. People are so depressed that submit, but when you rebel against the basic programming of the universe, when you rebel against them trying to suppress the basic programming, it's empowering. It feels good. The ultimate drug, is it not? Brian, have you ever felt better than you do now? We didn't talk before the show, but I'm guessing you feel the best you've ever felt.
I mean, it sounds strange in this time of coronavirus, but it's true, Alex. I've never felt more empowered. You know, I think I'm a wartime consigliere. I'm a wartime general. That's where I do my best work, when there's a fight. That's good with a startup. That's good when you're battling things out. But right now, honestly, I feel like I am just, I'm channeling a better and other force. That's what it is. It's not even me. This is not about Brian Rose. It's not about London Real. Even this digital freedom platform is not ours. It's some separate entity that's owned by the people. And it's going to continue on, even if I have my demise.
And Brian, it's that authenticity and the courage they feel. That's what they fear, my friend, is that you're not trying to put an act on. You just said the whole key to it all. It's my DNA. I just did it. You didn't have to muster this. In fact, let me guess, you want to go further. You are holding back what you want to do.
I mean, they call it poking the bear around here. And they said, Brian, would you please stop poking the bear? So every day I want to poke the bear. I like to push the envelope, and I don't like being told what to do.
Well, exactly, Brian, because they poked us. We'll be right back.
Wordsworth, Romney, obsolescence.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. This is Mr. Romney Wordsworth. In his last 48 hours on Earth, he's a citizen of the state, but will soon have to be eliminated. Because he is built out of flesh, and because he has a mind.
You've been under investigation, Mr. Wordsworth, for the mandatory period of 1 year and 11 months. You're found to be obsolete. The purpose of this hearing is to make a finding in the matter and make a sentence accordingly. Do you understand that, Mr. Wordsworth? Your occupation, Mr. Wordsworth?
A librarian, sir.
A librarian. Having to do with books.
Yes, sir. Books.
Since there are no more books, Mr. Wordsworth, there are no more libraries. The field investigators in your sector have classified you as obsolete. Your rights are as follows, Mr. Wordsworth. You are to be liquidated within a period of 48 hours. You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
A lie. No man is obsolete.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions that you inject into your veins with printer's ink. The narcotics that you call literature, poetry, essays of all kind, all of it an opiate. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
I don't care. I tell you, I don't care. I'm a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
The Chancellor, the late Chancellor, was only partly correct. He was obsolete. But so is the state, the entity he worshipped. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete.
We are not non-essential. We are not obsolete. The next of the hour, joined by Brian Rose, LondonReal.tv. I could ask you 1,000 questions, Brian. I'm well known for interruptions. I've got a lot of things to say, but take over. What do you want to say right now to everybody?
Well, first of all, I love watching those Twilight Zone clips, man. Nothing cuts through the soul like black and white Rod Serling telling you exactly how it is. And, you know, those words really reverberated with me. You know, for me, what's been saving me this last week has been the mobilization of what we're calling the London Real Army around the world. They've really come out of the woodwork and said, Brian, we completely believe in you. We know we've been watching you for 9 years. We feel your authenticity. And like you told me, Alex, when you were a guest on my show last week, that's what scares them, is the authenticity of a conversation between two people in a room that's unedited and unscripted. That alone is the scariest thing in the world.
It's the human, I said I would interrupt, but it's the human interaction they want to shut down. It's that magic. You didn't social distance your show, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's energy in the show, in that show, and people feel it with their gut. I think you said that to me, Alex, and that's the most dangerous thing because people know there's something there. And now it's the most banned piece of media on the internet. And what has been interesting is seeing them pull out their credit cards and actually vote with their dollars. And my grandpa was a hardworking cattle rancher from Arizona. And when I was a kid, he said, Brian, money talks and BS walks. And to see them in these times on the brink of a global recession that we haven't seen in 100 years, to put out $250,000 with some 7,000 plus donors in just over 24 hours is blown my mind.
By the way, I keep interrupting. I said I wouldn't. That sounds like a lot of money. Just the servers cost that. The cost, so when people need to support you, support everybody, to have your own platform. This isn't allowed. You've got to build this. Google has $700 billion.
Yeah, it's so true. There was a comment on one of my feeds the other day that said, I can stream for free. And I said, yeah, I used to be able to stream for free until I was banned. And now I've got to do it myself. And again, $100,000 for one stream. And so we're building a war chest for freedom. We're building a digital freedom platform that's its own entity. And that way, if they ban me, if I go bankrupt, if I disappear from this planet, this thing will continue.
Exactly. People have to get used to investing in alternatives because we've been at YouTube forever investing in their evil.
Yeah, it's so true. And Alex, you said something earlier, which I appreciate. You are not a victim and I am not a victim. And I put out a video about this recently because, you know, in this culture these days, it was different than when you and I grew up. We celebrate the victim, not the hero. And I don't want to be celebrated because poor old Brian has been mistreated by the Goliath. No, that's not how I do it. I want to be celebrated because
you want to dominate Goliath and rip his heart out.
Yeah, and I say thank you to YouTube because you've just provided me a solution and an army with financial banking that I didn't even know I had, Alex. So thank you, YouTube. You just put $250,000 in this war chest for freedom, and you've just helped us fight this fight. So I look at every problem as actually an enabling act.
Exactly.
Life is happening.
They get you in a victim mentality. It's like you're powerless instead of understanding judo. No, this attack, if you reach out to others, becomes power.
Exactly. And I want everyone following us to feel the same way. You know, it can't just be you and me at the front lines. We need everybody to step up and be leaders in their own life in all ways. And I'm telling the London Army to get ready physically, mentally for a fight, financially, because we need everybody out there leading, and they are showing it with their credit cards. And this is blowing people away. You know, I think it's got people scared at some of these big networks. And now, I mean, now try to ban me. I mean, you got a lot of people there. You got a lot of resources. This makes us strong. And again, I'm just a vessel for this message. That's all I'm trying to do. Honestly, Alex, every morning I get up and say, how can I step out of the way of this human force that does not want to be oppressed anymore?
Well, Brian, that's it. I want you to get into your points. I say I want to interrupt, but here you make great points. I have to add things. I've watched your show a lot because I like watching a, you know, yogi leader or some, you know, guy out of Russia or somebody out of Japan or Africa. I love the different topics. I don't want to just hear politics. You're pretty progressive, pro-human, not liberal progressive, but, you know, your show's not even threatening them, except it's real, and they don't like the fact they don't own you, and your show's getting more popular. So they're just kind of coming by and saying, we own you, and you're saying, no, you don't. But I mean, that's what they're afraid of.
Yeah, that's the strange part, Alex. This isn't a political show. This isn't, you know, anything about, you know, conspiracies or protesting. I have human conversations of all different kinds. And, you know, at the end of the day, we come to a final conclusion, which is this: we are all one aspect of humanity. You know, it's a theme I hear from you a lot, Alex. And this is the message we're putting out there. And everyone needs to come together and move this forward. And if you really love yourself and humanity, then you got to fight for these basic human rights. And, you know, that's what we want to do. This whole freedom of speech fight, the freedom of the press, I've never felt so vested in this. And everyone is responding alongside of that. So we're pushing forward. It's nice to have people out there that are warning us of this Hunger Games society and these other issues. It's good to put that front and center so we can act now so it doesn't happen.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't ban your David Icke interview because it was lies. They banned it because it looked way better than some $200 million production, you know, of something they celebrate like Hoffa or whatever. I mean, you watch it, you go, man, that was really fulfilling. Brian did a great job. David looked great. It just, the whole thing, I watched it with my wife, like I told you, in the hot tub, the pool, cooking dinner. We're first cooking dinner and the kids, and we're watching it, and I'm like, man, that was really good. And I looked at my wife and I said, this will get banned. The next day she runs in, she goes, it's banned, it's banned. How'd you know? And I said, well, anything that good's banned. I mean, they just can't deal with the authenticity, the human to human. What he just said earlier is what they fear. It's human to human. I'll do a podcast called Human to Human. You know, I'm not some bleeding heart that talks about tens of millions of extra people starving to death right now, the UN admits, from the lockdown. But I'm a person that's definitely rooted in reality. And I know the globalists want to get rid of the population. And I know that when they get me to accept killing old people and they get me to accept starving the third world to death, that's really myself and my family that are targeted. So I care about those people that are being killed, but I care about them out of self-interest. And Brian Rose is our guest at LondonReal.tv. Been around a decade. You know, millions of people reached every few days. Does some David Icke interviews, done them before. They go super viral. They're set to go to #1, and they kill it. And almost everybody else I know, including some of the biggest names out there that I won't mention, they get threatened and they roll over. And so I'm not gushing over Brian. It's just good to run into people, so many talk show hosts that are big out there, that are well-known names, who were told, don't go on Alex Jones' show, or don't talk about these issues, or we'll ban you. And they rolled over. And then it's always more. And like, what's your soul worth? Because, I mean, for me, the feeling of having somebody call me up from YouTube or from some syndicated radio network and tell me every week, oh, we don't like this thing you did. We want you to do that. And then pretty soon it's like, hey, my cousin's got a product. We want you to plug it. And you're literally talking to somebody who doesn't even run the network. They're just there telling you what you're going to do, and you're not your own man. And you just realize this is slavery, ladies and gentlemen. So going back to you, Brian, I want to get into other subjects next segment. This is a shorter segment, but just what would you call this period of history we're in right now? Because you see it. You go out to the store, people love you more than ever because you're standing up. It's kind of best of times, worst of times. Tell the two cities.
Yeah, it's almost like the Great Awakening, combined with the Great Recession that's pending. And I'm really concerned about this economy. I really think it's about time we get, hardworking people, back to work. And you talked about some of these collateral damage that's going to start to be seen around the world. And I'm worried about that. And I think people have gone from fearing the virus and fearing death to fearing for their own livelihood, for their family, and for the future. And people are worried. And people are asking me, Brian, what do I do? And I've been trying to put on these master classes and teach them how to digitize their businesses and, trying to give them that hope. But I really think we'll look back on this time in 10 years and find out, what did we learn, and did we grow, or did we cower? And I see signs everywhere, Alex, that this is going to be one of our greatest moments. But it takes that leadership. And I keep trying to put it back on, the people that watch me, the London Real Army. I need you to lead, even in small ways in your life. Anything you can do, you have to resist the temptation.
Exactly. They need to quit thinking of like a Brian Rose or an Alex Jones or a David Icke or a Donald Trump is up there doing it. No, they're literally the electricity down the power line. They're not just part of it. They're everything. We're just a small focal point or a little manifestation of a river going by. We're a little eddy pool that looks like a face for a moment, but then we disappear. But it's that river of all of us together that's the power.
Very much so. And, I've always been a guy that doesn't ask for help. I do it myself. And so this was a real learning experience for me to do this whole crowdfunding piece. But I understand, because I was giving them an opportunity to step up and even give $5, which I know they don't have or they could use for
And by the
better
way,
things
I'm not
right now.
bragging, but we were talking a few weeks ago, and I said, Brian, you always fund this off your own money. And like, it's bad. I said, they tried to shut me down too. You need to ask them for support. They want to support you.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, you've led the way in showing.
Well, I wasn't trying to get attention. I'm just saying, I was in the same position as you 15 years ago. We're like men. We're like, I can do this myself. I'll fund this. But no, we have to ask for help.
I know it's the hardest thing to ask for help. It really is. But
talk about that, because you were a big banker, successful. Well, what was it like to ask for? Doesn't it feel good? Because we're not weak when we ask for help. We're all together here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big components of my show, if you watch, is that vulnerability. I'll have championship boxers on that will cry 90 minutes into the show because they're reliving a moment in their life that actually made them so powerful in order to win that title, because they owed a promise to their dying grandmother, because they were abused as a child. So I'm all about that on my show. Embracing it myself was really new, Alex. But again, it's about me getting out of the way and empowering those people. And now it's our fight. And now it's literally, it's 1,000 times stronger.
And what is it like when you have done everything yourself and you're finally desperate? It's not about you. It's about the mission. You reach up for help, and the arm that reached down is even more powerful than you thought. And all of a sudden, it's like electricity. You're like, oh, my God, I want other people to experience this. I need help. They need help. We come together, and it's incredible.
Again, it's a feeling I've never felt before. It's real human connection. I mean, to have people that actually have your back, it's not about the money, but to just see that piling up.
Well, it's a symbol of their support.
Yeah, it quantifies the love and support out there. And I've never felt that in 9 years, Alex. I've never felt it.
Well, we were talking, if we can do this on record, I'll do it. 2 weeks ago, you were like, I'm going to go forward. I don't know. They're trying to bankrupt us. I said, just ask for the support. It's going to be bigger than you knew. And I'm not saying I did this. We were having a discussion, but people behind the scenes, this was a real discussion, and you made the right decision. And you're going to get persecuted for this, but it's just going to get better and better. That's what people know is they shouldn't be scared of the persecution. Yeah, it's rough up front, but it just gets better every time you go through that storm.
Yeah, with love, you're going to have hate. And, I think that hate is actually just a slight perturbing of the frequency of love. I think it's someone that really wants to love you, but their ego is getting in the way, and they have to say, that guy's that rich banker. He's just trying to get my money. But I think really they're like, wow, I wish I could be like you, and I appreciate you standing up for my freedoms. It just gets a little twisted. And look, when you and I were young men, Alex, I'm sure we had those same feelings about some figures. So I just look at it all as energy. And yeah, I have taken flack.
Oh, exactly. I remember as a child looking up to movie stars and looking up to Arnold Schwarzenegger and like, but hating him at the same time. When you grow up as a man, you realize how powerful and how weak we are at the same time. Then it becomes a joke. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, look, hate is just love that's been slightly perturbed. So it's all energy and it's all interaction. So when someone's out there hating me, I'm like, oh, I see where you're coming from. I used to be there too. I know
at least they're hating you. At least they're focused on you.
Yeah, very much so. And I represent something that they aspire to, and that's great. And again, I want everyone to come along on this journey. But yeah, that's why I feel so alive right now, Alex, because this has been incredible. I've never felt this support from people. It blew me away yesterday. You know, I woke up in the morning and there was like 15,000 raised. We hit the 100,000 by 6 o'clock, and literally we were all jaw drop shocked around here. And so it's just been amazing.
Well, you know my joke statement, I'm not bragging, and I know you did this on your own, but I told you, I said, I'm embracing and I don't care. And I said, you need to ask for support. I mean, you were already planning it, I know, but I mean, it's good. People want to do this. They want to fight back, brother, and they want leaders that aren't backing down. They want leaders.
Well, yeah, and I asked you off camera. I mean, you got the roadmap on this, and I just said, Alex, what can I expect to happen? Because I don't see what's coming, and it's the shot you don't see that knocks you out. And you said, look, Brian, these are a few things that are going to happen, and this is what you can do. This has been one of the greatest moves we made. It's just so empowering, and it's still blowing me away, but it's giving me even more energy, if that was even possible. Alex.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, like in V for Vendetta, when they knock over the dominoes, everybody has to make the decision in life to make the right decision. Then God will carry it the rest of the way. We'll be right back with Brian Rose. Welcome back. I'm your host, Alex Jones. So, is Trump a savior or is he a devil? Is he a saint or is he in league with Satan? Now, I know Trump, and, you know, it means nothing to me to know a president. It means nothing to me. Big wake-up call 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. Immediately, Hollywood collects people like baseball cards. And, I mean, 25 years ago, I was at major directors' houses. I was at major parties. Brad Pitt was walking by, and I'm like, why am I here? And it was because they were collecting intellectuals, what they saw as intellectuals, and they saw the potential. And then I sit there, and I watch this hysteria. And by the way, I'm not up here on air going, oh, Hollywood tried to get me involved with them. Like, that's cool. It's like saying I rolled around on a dead animal on the side of the road or something. It's like, once I, took a nap in a bathroom on the side of the highway. It's not like I'm like bragging about something, but they put that up there like it's this unattainable magic world. None of that fulfilled me. And that's why I didn't go along with it. People were like, why are you in these big movies? Well, I had no idea what was even going on until I did. And once I figured out what was really going on, I was like, you couldn't pay me all the money on the planet to be part of this. But see, not fighting it is the same as going along with it. That's what the Bible says. You were lukewarm, so I spit you out of your mouth. If you fight it, you're against it. But if you don't do anything, it's the same as going along with it. So I wanted to ask Brian Rose, let's get some political questions with him. What does he really think about President Trump? Because that's the big zeitgeist. And what does he think about this lockdown? He's an economist. He's been a successful banker. And this headline, coronavirus pandemic will cause famine in biblical proportions, UN says, London Guardian. But that's not true. It's the lockdown. The lockdown. That's what's causing it. And sure, there's real deaths, but they're so small compared to what the mass deaths causing. And then I try to mention it, and the people attacking me have no idea that I know about the advertising firms that paid them money. And that's another thing. I intended to come on air today because it was the right thing to do and talk about some of the groups I know are getting communist Chinese money. And I don't know why, Brian, I can't even say their names. Maybe I will tomorrow, but that's an example of this whole metaphysical thing. Sometimes I consciously decide to say something, but then there's this other force comes in, and it's always right. That's why I've learned to follow it, because I can override that force. I don't even know what it is. I mean, it's God, but it's like And people say, what does this mean? I don't know. That's why I'm saying to listeners, what is it where I'm ready to say something, I can say it, I'm not scared to say it, but then I don't say it? I guess that's God's mystery. But again, I'm babbling here. What do you think's really behind this virus? What do you think's really behind Trump? What do you think's behind crude oil at zero and 30 million starving to death, the UN says right now, but nobody cares? And I mean, what is this time we're in, Brian Rose?
Well, you mentioned trusting your gut, Alex, and I think that's really an essential component here, but it's so hard to do when your brain is being scrambled by all these mixed messages. And when I see Trump at these nightly news conferences, and I watch him every night, I find them quite soothing and calming somehow. I see a man that's trying to trust his gut, and yet he's surrounded by people that are giving him conflicting logic. And he knows deep down inside that getting America back to work is the ultimate solution here on so many levels. And yet he's battling lots of strange forces, sometimes the same ones on that stage in the press room that obviously have conflicting agendas. And the many are being punished for, what's happening to the few here. And there must be another way out, Alex. It's just madness. When you take a bird's eye view of what's happening, it makes no sense. But in a microscope, we've been convinced that it does. And so I think something's building up here where you're going to see a major decision that he makes. Either that or the public are going to get to a point, and you've seen the protests in Austin everywhere around the world, where people just won't have it because they're going to be marginalized. This is going to have a generational effect on the class system, on people's wealth, on their livelihoods, and at some point they're going to snap. And I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. People are asking me. Strangely enough, people are joining my courses at record levels so they can learn how to take advantage of this information economy that we're in now, as opposed to this old industrial economy. So people are looking for ways out, Alex. They're clamoring for them. And I'm asking them, how are you going to be remembered in 2020? As someone who was fighting in the front lines? And sure, you're going to get damaged. You might bleed. You might die. Or do you want to be known as someone that lets someone else fight for their freedom? That's the question you need to ask yourself. We need to get back to work. We need to find a way. That's my message.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm going to play that every hour of the next week here, Brian Rose. You're absolutely right. And you can see at a spiritual, at a genetic level, Trump's for real. He's not perfect, but he's really trying to be president. He's really trying to empower people. And he's just surrounded by a bunch of liars. And he's gone through so many tribulations, but every tribulation we go through together with him, it just gets worse. There's got to be some point where you cut the head off the snake.
Alex, you've seen what I do here. It's 2 hours of long-form conversations where you get to see the real person because we don't edit anything. And funny enough, Alex, that's what these news conferences are. You see Trump for 90 minutes, 2 hours, being real. And I can see inside a man who deeply cares about the American people. I don't care what anyone says. When he describes those doctors suiting up to that hospital, to go into that hospital in Queens, which is next door to where he grew up, he calls them heroes. He's almost breaking into tears. So for anybody that says this man isn't genuinely aligned with their interests, I don't believe it. And that's been the most eye-opening thing for me ever, to see that real, authentic person. And there's nobody else I'd rather have.
Conversations with Trump I've never put on air because I don't have words to describe how authentic it is. Like, you think Trump on TV is authentic. When I've had these long conversations with Trump and he's like, listen, I always believed in God, but I've been prayed for at these churches, these black churches. Have you felt it, Alex? I've never been at a rock concert that has that much spirit. We're gonna free American Christians. And I'm like, sir, that's not my big lobbying point. And he's like, I know. What do you think about the spirit of those rallies? I want to talk about the spirit. I go, well, sir, I feel that I'm a Christian. He goes, I know. I was never not a Christian, but I feel it so strong now. When you see him on TV going, I'm a changed man, I felt God. He literally has, not getting holy roller here, but he's got the Holy Spirit. Trump never had this till I think he was like running for president. He wasn't a devil worshiper, but he was kind of in between. I think like Saul on the road to Damascus, Trump got hit by the bolt of lightning.
I think so, and I think these difficult times has made it happen even more. It's elevated his consciousness, his energy, and he is a spiritual guy. I'm expecting him to get emotional at one of these things. And I think that's a powerful thing. Again, back to what you said, vulnerability can show you that someone's real. It's where the fight comes from in people. And this man deeply cares. And he's working so hard on this. And
well, see, that's the thing. When Trump listens to my show, and I know he's going to watch this probably later, I'm not bragging about this. This is real, folks. He feels the spirit of authenticity. And that's what I'm saying is the more you have it, the more I have it, the more he has it, the more we all have it. That's what is the spirit. It's being real. Like sin is lying about who you are instead of just coming together and not being insecure.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. And that's the ultimate lesson today, I think, is be authentic, be yourself, speak your mind. That's one of the things that David Icke always says at the end of my episodes. He says, Brian, speak your mind. Say how you feel. Don't worry about what Twitter says you should say or the politically correct thing to say. Go with your gut, be authentic, and just say it and move forward like that. And I think that's just incredible advice. We all self-censor way too much these days. I think that is one of the paths forward. That, taking action and moving into the fear.
All right, let's get Brian Rose's predictions straight ahead here, folks. You got to go to LondonReal.tv. Support him. I know what it's like when they censor you, like happened 2 years ago. We had to spend everything we had just to launch the servers. Please go support him. It's hard to tell the truth. Help him get up on his feet to really fight the enemy. You know, there's a lot of people tune into this syndicated radio TV show. Over 1 million conservatively tune in every hour, and they'll say, man, Jones is sure praising this Brian Rose guy a lot. What's the point of that? Well, you know, when we celebrate courage, we celebrate what's good in all of us. And it's the celebration of truth that we're all engaged in, and nothing has value like courage. Nothing has value like truth. Nothing has value like the genuine. And that's why they always tell you I'm not genuine. I'm so damn genuine, it's ridiculous. And I'm not bragging, folks, but I mean, I'm genuine. And you all have discernment. You know that, and you're genuine. And Trump is genuine. Why do you think they're so scared? Because there's not just the fake in the world, the Hillarys, the Pelosi's, the Maxine Waters of the world. There's the Angela Merkels. There's the real in the universe. But see, the counterfeit doesn't want you to know the real. And so I want all viewers and listeners to know something. I grew up with parents that grew up in the Depression. And no matter how much money we had, I had to go out and have jobs when I was 10 years old. And I had to buy my own shoes, and I got it now. My kids are spoiled compared to the way I was, but it was almost always this guilt that we were even successful or we were smart. Instead of the job we had, the mission that we were smart and successful, that we should go out and help others. Instead of the evil going around using the fact that they're empowered, but they're using the fact that they're aware of what's going on against the general public. It's our job to expose that. And so that's what I've tried to get into here today, is that, yes, everyone is freaking out right now because world government's here, forced inoculations here, the attack on the families here, the cashless society, embeddable microchips are here, and people are getting scared. And I just have to say to folks what Franklin Delano Roosevelt said: the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And I remember David Icke used to come on my show 25 years ago and just harp that you are living in fear. Not me, but the listeners. But I was coming off like I was scared. It was actually aggression against it. And saying, get past the fear, get past the fear. And I wasn't getting it because I didn't have fear. But the message to the public that's paralyzed by fear, that's the worst place to be. So, Brian Rose, you say you didn't get past the fear. But studying what happened with you, because you're so rare with a prominent person, millions of people you reach every day, 10 years on YouTube, your own media thing, you're very successful. You don't brag about it, but you're very successful. Everybody knows that. You didn't come as a business model to challenge the New World Order. You just thought out of all your interviews, you interview who you want. They tried to punish you, and you didn't back down. And in that is the essence of the thought process. But you just said the truth. There wasn't a thought process. It was spiritual. It was default. So what about folks that don't feel like it's a default? I think they don't know it's default. I think they've let their their fears get on top of that and the emotion and the propaganda. But I think if they really focus in deep down that it is their default to not be a slave. How do you elaborate on that?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, Alex, I posted on social media the other day that you're a legend, and you are, and I appreciate your authenticity and your courage through all this stuff. It's been really powerful for me to watch. On the other hand, fear, that is the only thing that's stopping us at the end of the day. And I think if you can see your own relationship with fear and ask yourself some simple questions, there is a way through, even if your knee-jerk reaction is not to step up, to fight back, to go into the gunfire. And ask yourself, what are you scared of? Even to the level of, are you really scared of dying? Are you really scared of being broke? Are you really scared of all of these things? What is the worst that can happen? And start asking yourself, would you rather, live free or die? What is the story of your life going to be? What is going to be your greatest moment? I think people start asking themselves these questions right now, and they can understand the way that they're knee-jerk reacting and behaving here, because 99% of us act in a way to things that never actually come true. And so we live in these phantoms of fear that cause us to live these quiet lives of desperation. And that's most of the world. And when they see someone stepping up, they want to rally around it because they see that in themselves. But everyone has this power, Alex. They do. They just need to really think about this. I think everyone can become powerful.
Brian, I agree with you, but it's not an overnight process. People have to realize revolutions aren't won overnight. This is a globalist revolution against our revolution, a counter-revolution. I believe they're failing. But when you talk about it backfiring, get into that, because I really respect your view. I see that as well, but your perspective on how it's backfiring, because the fact that this hysteria hoax, the virus is real but overblown. The hysteria hoax is only 2 months old, and as Mark Twain said, a lie goes halfway around the world before truth puts its pants on. But the reaction is so explosive already. I would expect a reaction in 6 months, a year. It's coming on stronger than I thought. Quite frankly, it scares me, though, because you put these two forces together. When I say scared, I'm just, this is not a time to be sitting back saying we're bored.
Yeah, and look, I think this lockdown will no longer be tolerated. I think 2 months out from now, you are going to see some real civil unrest. You're going to see people push back. And I think it's time to open this economy up. I think it's time to put your faith in the innovation of the American worker. I think there is so much more we can do here, so much more we can innovate on everywhere that's going to take us to the next level, much more than we fear. Again, we're all in fear that what's on the other side is even worse than it is now. I'm the opposite. I think what is on the other side is a massive recovery, new businesses, new ideas, new ways of dealing with something that looks like, a two-dimensional foe. And it's not. It really isn't. It's
By the way, you just said it. If they convince us we're done and it's over, it is. But we can do unlimited things with our potential now if we just know that's the truth.
Yeah, and people have to step into that. Everyone is powerful enough to do it. It doesn't happen overnight. You're right, Alex. It comes through an entire daily practice. It comes through building that sense of self, through listening and learning, but then taking action. That's always the missing component. And we see it out there, Alex. We see a lot of people that hear these messages of ours, and they don't actually take the action. They don't, quote unquote, pull the trigger, as we say, and step into that unknown. But if they do, they'll realize that 99% of what they thought was going to happen doesn't. And there's real bedrock
absolutely.
there.
When you take action, it's always better. Maybe not first level, but third, fourth, fifth level. It just gets better. Brian Rosden, LondonReal.tv. Final statement then about action, about living in your own destiny, not somebody else's program destiny. What is your parting words for this audience?
I think this is an incredible time of reflection. I think this is potentially the greatest learning experience of our entire life. And honestly, this is a dry run, Alex. Let's be honest. This could have been much, much, much worse. We could have been seeing 30% fatalities.
It's a beta test. You're dead right.
We lived through the plague in this city. We saw just complete devastation. That's not what's happening here. This is a test. This is a way to prepare yourself for the real one that's coming. This is a time to prepare your business, to prepare your personal life. Stop waiting for the handout from the government. Stop waiting for the handout from your employer or from anyone else. You need to bulletproof your own house. And that comes from your physical presence, that comes from your financial future, and your spiritual mindset. to where no one can run the show in the future, because that's what's coming. That is what's coming. The Hunger Games Society, the mind
You just said it,
programming.
though. This is a fire drill from what's really coming. Instead of this being the globalist takeover, this is our opportunity to get self-sufficient.
This is nothing. This is literally like, you know, in the old days where they would put the dead virus in you and you would build up to it when the big one would come. So we are in preparation. I am getting ready here. I am literally building myself for the big fight while everyone else is saying, wow, that was tough. I mean, this is nothing that's happening right now. And the people that build now are going to be the ones that dominate in the future and liberate the rest of us. So that's why I'm excited, Alex. I can see you're supercharged right now because I know that I'll be having to lead in the future, and I'm ready.
No, you're right. It was in 2008. They had the dot-com bust. I had $1 million house, $100,000 in the bank. I sold my house. We moved into an apartment, and I said, I'm putting it all into the info war when no one else was. And I just knew it would do all this, and it happened. And now is the time, like you said, don't pull the horns in, put the horns out. I'm impressed, Brian. I've always loved your work. I've been watching you at least 3-4 years, and I love you, and I appreciate it. I can't wait to meet you in person. And your courage is a total inspiration to all of us.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you. It is a time to expand, not contract. And again, I appreciate your courage and authenticity. It's helped me through a few difficult days over here. So
we love you, brother. That man has strength. He's very successful. He didn't back down. That's the spirit. That's the fighting spirit.